All right, here we are, everybody. How you doing? It's the Pedal Guy here. Welcome to my very first clinic in quite some time here, and we're coming to you live via YouTube, the Pedal Guy YouTube and Facebook channel, and we're also coming to you live from the NUX channels as well. So no matter what your walk of life is, here we are, and we're going to be discussing the Amp Academy today. How are we all doing out there? Give us a shout out. Give us a shout out. Let us know how you're doing. I hope you're having a great week. I hope everybody's staying safe and healthy and all that good stuff. And I'm so jazzed to have you here. So before we get started, a couple things real quick. On the channel, we're using Restream today for the clinic. So you can type your questions out, and when we get to it, what I'll be able to do is actually go and start taking all of the comments and questions once they show up here, and I'll even be able to highlight them as you can see right there. So I'll actually be able to answer your question there, Gout, as far as what Amp Academy is. So this will be a really good opportunity for you guys to ask any questions that you have about the product. If you've never seen the Amp Academy or seen it really in action, this is a great opportunity for you to get some feedback and to get some advice on whether this is the right product for you, whether it isn't. Who knows? I don't. You do. Once you see the features, you might like it a lot. Who knows? So how are we doing out there? Come on, guys, say something. Let me know you're alive. I know some people are alive there. I can see Quicksilver. How you doing, Quicksilver? Good to see you. I can see Carlos. How are you? I'm going up the list here. Brian, how are you doing? Good to see you, my friend. I hope everything is going well for everybody here. And let's go ahead and get into it and talk about what we're going to be doing today. So let's take a quick look-see here. We have our Amp Academy sitting right here next to me, and I am doing this in kind of a weird little way, so you're going to see a little bit of a lag time here when I'm on top of the pedal right here, as you can see right now, but that's actually going to be addressed by Restream down the road. So, and my wife has also chimed in here to say that the sound is great. So thank you very much, dear. I appreciate that. You may hear a bark or two from outside, and that would be our dog Brian. And by the way, I'm also using the new B10 Vlog wireless microphone from NUX. This has been my second month with the company. It has just been fantastic. I'm so very grateful for all of the wonderful experiences I've had so far, and I look forward to many more in the years to come. But we have so much to cover today with the Amp Academy. And let me also kill the music while we're at it too, because we don't need that anymore. Yo, yo, yo. Let's go ahead and just remove that source because we don't need that anymore. We're just going to continue to work on what we've got here. So let me go ahead and turn off this feed, and let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do today. And we're going to cover the Amp Academy, as I mentioned already, and I'm going to try to wrap this up in an hour or so, maybe a little farther. It depends on how many questions I get. So the more questions I get, the longer we'll be here. So I hope you're in for a good educational experience. So just a couple of little quick ones here. This is an educational show. I'm here to show the product. I'm here to answer questions about specifically the product. If the time allows for it, I may take a few questions about some of the other products we make, but you're going to want to stick around till the end because I'm going to tell you about new features that are yet to come for the Amp Academy. Hint, 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 hint. So you want to stick around for that. The other rule, of course, is no naughty words, please. Keep your 3- and 4-letter words to yourself. Save it for the weekend. For right now, let's just have a good time and learn something about this amazing pedal. So today, I'm going to take you through the layout of the Amp Academy. We're going to go through a quick start. I'm then going to take you through the editor, and the editor is just a fantastic part of how the Amp Academy works. I'm going to show you how to build a preset with the Amp Academy, and then we're going to go through some power tips because there are always hidden features inside of all of the NUX products that really will make this so very interesting for you guys. And at the end, I'll take some questions and answers. So I hope you're here to enjoy yourself. Andrew wrote just, I'm surprised you aren't at NAMM. Well, I'm surprised I'm not at NAMM too, but NAMM is You know, it's an interesting year this year. I will be there tomorrow, but just in a meeting capacity. But we actually are at the NAMM show this weekend in a very small booth, or a very small space on a very large booth called the Music People. So if you do want to come and see my good friend Urson over there and hang out with him and have him show you everything that's new under the sun with NUX, you're welcome to go say hi for us. Okay, so we're going to go through all of these features today and then do some Q&A at the end. Let's go ahead and define what the Amp Academy is. So if I were to define the Amp Academy, I would call it legacy amps, impulse responses, effects, and much more in a compact pedal. Essentially, this is an amp in a pedal. That's as easy as I can make it because it has all of the layout and behaviorisms of an amplifier, all in a pedal. And you know, channel A, channel B, all that stuff is there, but there is so much under the hood. You have no idea. So let's just kick into it even further here. So if we're talking about the bare bone features, just to put them out there, all the sizzle. First off, there are 6 amps. However, we define it as 6 amps, but there are actually 2 variations per amp. So you actually have 12 of them. So that is a cool feature. You see you get 12 amps to play with, and it's based on our amp modeling technology, which you can read about it until you're blue in the face from our website. We have real-time effects. We have 16 of them, in fact, including a really great noise gate and a really good EQ and a whole bunch of reverbs and overdrives, distortions, and compression. So you have a lot going for you there. And you can also add your favorite pedal into the mix as well. And I will tell you how that's done. We also have 12 impulse responses included with the Amp Academy. And that is 12 chop tone impulse responses included with the Amp Academy. Chop tone makes some of the best they make some of the best ones in the world. They're, in fact, let me bring the logo up here really quick. I forgot to put that back up. There we are. The chop tone IRs are some of the best out there. They do such an amazing job on their stuff, and we put 12 of them in. But you can add your own to the mix as well, up to 16 of your own impulse responses. And there's literally hundreds of them out there to choose from. So that's included here. Now, when we're talking about the layout of the Amp Academy, it's laid out like an amp. So just like an amp, you have 2 channels. You have your clean channel and your dirty channel. And that's exactly what we have here with the Amp Academy. You have channel A, which is your vintage, your classic, and your modern amps. So this is really good for the clean stuff and for the semi-dirty stuff going to rock and roll. Now, the B channel, that's where all the dirt is. That's where you've got your brown, your red, and your iridium. And those can be selected by making use of the switches there, but also by making use of the left and right foot switch. Well, actually, the left foot switch. The right foot switch serves a different purpose, and I will talk about that in a minute. And we'll talk a little bit more about what those amps actually are, but brown kind of tells you pretty much that's where you're going to find your Marshall and your Friedman. And as far as the vintage goes on channel A, that's where you're going to find your Fender Super Reverb. Really great sounds, and well, you'll just have to hear it for yourself, and we'll get there. Now, on the top row is laid out just like you might expect, where you've got your gain, your master, your boost, and your noise reduction. But if you are familiar with any of our products, you know that we put secondary features into all of those products. And here's one of those secondary features. If you press and hold the right foot switch, which is the scene foot switch, that will enable you to turn on or access the decay and the level of the reverb. As you can hear, there's Brian there in the background of our dog. And in any case, that's just one of the secondary features. We'll get into all of them as we go through here. Let's go to the next step. So we have, you heard that, right? Quicksilver. So on the bottom row, again, we have I don't know if that's an applause or if that's to quiet the dog. I'm not quite sure. We have the bottom row of the Amp Academy, which again, looks a lot like an amp, doesn't it? You have your 3 bands of equalization. You also have a presence knob, and you have your scene switch on the right side. Now the scenes are snapshots within a preset, and you have 3 per preset. So you literally have 3 presets within a single preset. That's how I typically like to call them. And then you have, of course, the foot switches. And the left foot switch is used to change between the channel A and channel B. The right foot switch is used to change scenes. You can press both foot switches at the same time to bypass the pedal. You could use the left foot switch to hold and save presets, and as I mentioned earlier, you can hold the right foot switch to activate the alt functionality. So really great stuff there. Now looking at the side of the Amp Academy, where it's, there it is. Okay, on the side here, we have a DI output, and that's actually how we're using it today. If I turn on the feed to the other camera there, you can see that I'm using the DI output here, which is a nice clean output. There's also an auxiliary input as well, so you can plug in an MP3 player, and there's also a headphone output, so you can do silent practicing at home. And in addition to that, when we look at the back of the Amp Academy, you have your input, you have your DI lift, you have an IR output switch. I'll tell you what that is. We have your standard output. You have an insert, send, and return, and we include the little cable adapter as well. That's really handy. So that allows you to integrate your favorite pedals into the Amp Academy just as you would with a send and return on a standard amp. We also have a USB-C port on the back because we're building for the future, not for the past. It makes it incredibly solid, as some things that I will talk about. And of course the power port. Kind of knew that was coming up, right? And then finally, the included software. And this is really the centerpiece of the Amp Academy. This is where you can customize your tones. It works on Mac and PC for now. And this is where you can do all of the deep editing for the Amp Academy. So I think you're going to really enjoy what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and get into it. So we've already kind of taken a bit of a tour here on what it looks like. So it's not really a huge surprise. You've got your top row, your bottom row. If you want to change the different presets, the different amps, I should say, you just go here to the amp switch and just switch it. And as you can see, the light changes color here on the foot switch to let you know what's going on here for channel A. If we move over to channel B, we got a little bit of a lag here, so you'll have to forgive my internet access here. But on B channel, we have our ability to toggle over, and that's where we can select the brown, the red, and the iridium amp. And you can see that the LED changes as I make adjustments to it. So right now it's red, but right in a second it's going to be changing to an orange or an amber. And then to the right of that, we have the scene switch. And the scene switch is the scene switch can be changed from either using the foot switch or by using the S1, S2, and S3 switch at the top. So that is how you do it. That's one way you can do it. The other way you can do it, and I think it's actually a much more interesting way of doing it, is by making use of the editor. So I'm going to bring that up. There we are. Doesn't that look wonderful? Okay, here we are. So Quicksilver said, actually, I don't even have to tell you what he said. I can just show you. Isn't that wonderful? To be honest, doesn't anybody really still have these household MP3 players? Yep, there are people that still do it, believe it or not. It doesn't ever change. People want every kind of connection they can when they're using a product like this. So as long as the demand is there, we're going to use it. So there you have it. Okay, so as far as the editor goes, let's go over here and take a look at the editor. So from here, you have your channel A, you have your channel B. This is where you can select any of the different amps. So if you look at Vintage, Vintage has two different amps. So we have a twin reverb and a super reverb. We have the classic, which is the Vibro King and the Dr. Z. Then we have the Cali Crunch and the Brit Blues for modern. If we go over to the channel B, this is where you've got your Friedman, you've got your Brit 800, which is obviously a Marshall, you've got your Soldano and your dual rectifier, you've got your Uber and your Diesel. So this is where you can get all the gent sounds out of it. And it's just as easy as simply selecting the amp you want and then selecting it, and you can see that the impulse response changes, and depending on what the preset is set at here on the amp, that will change as well. All right, so going to the right from there, you've got the scene buttons here, and you can make that adjustment from either the editor, or you could do it right here from the foot switch itself. So it's a really great feature to work with, and let's go ahead and just keep going through it. So we'll talk about scenes, don't worry, we'll talk about that in a minute. And you've got, of course, your save for your preset, your export, and your import. And then to the right of that, you've got your USB audio, you've got your input volume, your output volume, and your DI output. And what's very handy here is this little R button at the top, because you can make adjustments if you want to, and then hit R, and it'll reset it back to 0. Going to the bottom here, we have the amp controls, depending on which amp you've got selected. In this case, we have the twin reverb selected. So you've got your gain, your master, you've got 3 bands of EQ, you've got your bright switch for this amp because that's what was on the Fender, and then you've got your bias. And this is something you can't access through the pedal. You have to access it through the editor. And what's really great about the bias is you can make it sound like a crunchy old crapped out amp if you want to, or you could start really driving the tubes and get that uber saturation out of it that just sounds wonderful. And below that, we have the impulse responses. And of course, this is the magic of how easy this is. So it is set currently to Chop Tone's Fender Twin Reverb, but if I click here, I can select any of the various impulse responses that are available to me here. So if I want to make it sound like it's going through a boogie, you could bring that impulse response in. You don't have to stick with what it is in the preset. You could do anything you want. So you could go to a Vox 212 cab if you wanted to from a Fender amp. That's the beauty and magic of working with something like something with an impulse response. That's the beauty of working with it. And once you do that, you then have your level, low cut, and high cut filters to work with as far as altering the characteristics of the impulse response. So pretty straightforward, right? Now there are other features too that I want to talk about, but I really want to just see, take you guys through how to actually get a sound going on it first before we go to the next step here. Don't worry, it's black tea. It's not. It's black tea. I'm not drinking on the job here, people. But anyway, let me bring up my guitar. My guitar here, and. By the way, what do you think of my new camera? I'm using my new camera here to as my on-face camera here, and I got to tell you, it's so wonderful to use these instead of the webcams. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the webcams, but I mean, come on, let's face it wasn't the best in the world. But in any case, all right, so we're not hearing anything yet. Well, let me throw on the headphones here. You guys have to start having questions at this point, I'm sure. So start shouting out those questions. It's not just Quicksilver. I know everybody's out there. I know everybody's watching. We got almost 30 people out there watching across all of our channels. And I'm sure there'll be more people that'll ask even more questions after the whole event's done. So get them questions ready. Okay, so I can go ahead and let's unmute the channel here. Can everybody hear it? Let me know if you can hear it, okay, guys? In fact, I can actually mute my mic. There it is. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for letting me know you could hear it. I appreciate that. Really does make my job a whole lot easier when I'm going through the motions here. Okay, so let's talk about the pedal here for a second. So I'm going to do all of my edits. Oh, it needs reverb, does it? Does it need reverb, Quicksilver? Oh, I'm going to bring that up. Don't worry, buddy. I gotcha. And there we go. Okay. It's live stream. It's live internet. We got to have fun with this stuff, right, guys? It's Friday afternoon, for God's sakes. Let's have fun. And let's see here. Okay, let's get to it. So they got the screen up here so I can see the editor while I'm making my adjustments here. So I'll go ahead and do that. So the first things first, let's just stick with the twin reverb for right now. And let's go through the various effects and all that. So on the signal block here, and I didn't even talk about this part yet. You know, you can move all the blocks around. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that cool? So you really have so much versatility here that you didn't have before. I mean, if that isn't making you all excited and hot and bothered right now, if you're a guitar player, I don't know what will. But in any case, let's go through the signal block here. So the signal chain is read from left to right. And from the signal chain, you can right click on any of the modules here on the blocks. So the first one is a noise gate, which seems pretty obvious. From here, you can make all kinds of adjustments to the sensitivity and the decay. We don't have to do much here in this case. I'm just going to leave it where it is. And I'm going to move to the effects block here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. Okay, I'm going to right click on there, and it's currently set to the K comp. Now, here's something, one of those secret weapon features that you may not know. When you use the boost knob specifically edits the effects slot of the signal block. So typically it's like the level of whatever effect you've brought up. So in this case, it's the level of the compressor. So that's what that knob is there for, just in case you were wondering. But from here, we can change the sustain level and clipping. We can also just simply go to something like a tube screamer. And I know that you're hearing the microphone as well as this, and I'll be turning off the mic at some point so you can just hear the Amp Academy by itself. And don't worry, I'm not a shredder here, so I'm not one of the guys that's going to start going. That's for the Pete Thorns of the world, who is a marvelous player, a wonderful individual as well, and it's such a treat to watch him do these demos too. But you can select anything you want, like say Red Dirt, which is a distortion. So if I use the boost knob now, you can see that it's affecting the level of the Red Dirt. So that's what the boost knob is there for, just in case you were wondering. Okay, so let's go back here, and I'm going to turn that off for right now. We don't do anything with the amp or with the IR because that's being handled by these buttons and of course the IR section down here. But next to that is of course the 6-band EQ. Now, like all of our EQs, you have to be a little careful because these are really strong. It's really strong, and you'll bleed your ears out if you're not careful here. But you can make changes very quickly with it. Switch to the bridge pickup there, or the neck pickup. Okay, and of course, if you ever want to reset it, you just go to that R button, and it just resets everything right back to 0, which is wonderful. To the right of that is the send and return, and this is where you really want to work with the editor a little bit because of this one reason. So in the editor, when you're using in the pedal, when you're using send and return, that means what you're doing is you're using the back of the pedal here, and I know you can't see it that well, but in the back we have a jack. It's a stereo insert jack that has a send and return that goes to any of your external pedals. In this case, I'm using it with the Timecore delay here. So if I turn that on, and then I go over to the send and return, I turn that block on, just like a regular amp. Now, do you guys know, of course, that you don't want to put the send and return or the delay before the preamp section, right? You want to make sure that you do it after the fact so that it doesn't mix, it doesn't go into the drive of the amp, because then you'll start getting really dirty, nasty sounds. But this is where, of course, you can make all the adjustments to it. So we can go to repeat. Let's see what other, let's see, we can go to mix, we can go to repeat. So if you're going to play some of the, Rush stuff. Okay, well, I can play that all day long, but I won't. We'll do that later. Let's go ahead and talk about the send and return though, just so we can bring it up here. The thing is that you want to keep in mind is that you don't, when it's at its nominal level, this is typically what you're going to see where the send and the return are pretty much at 12 o'clock. And that can kind of give you kind of a little distortion. So it really depends on how you've configured it. You do need to be a little careful at this point, and you do need to just kind of flavor it to taste. So what I typically do is I pull the send back and I use the return as a makeup gain so that I get something like this versus this. So it's nice and level matched. Okay, so let's move on from there. And now, Quicksilver, are you paying attention? Here's where the reverb is. And in fact, I'm going to turn off the delay so you can just hear the reverb. So if I go to the reverb here and go ahead and right click on it, here are all of the reverbs that are included with the Amp Academy. So you've got a room, you've got a hall, you've got a plate, you've got a spring, you've got the damp, and the spring sounds really good. I'm a real picky guy with spring reverbs. But it's nice and spongy. So bring the level all the way up here, you can really hear that sucker. So if you're going to play some Dick Dale, this would probably be the right setting to go with. I won't play it though, okay? Because there is only one Dick Dale. All right, so there you go. You can make all the adjustments you want and go ahead and close that. So now let's go down to the bottom row here and let's make some adjustments to getting the tone here. So I'm going to keep the gain about where it is. So it's slightly overdriven, but not to the point where it's over the top. And then use the master just to kind of dial it in. Okay, then we can use the 3 bands of EQ. Typically, I like to pull the mids back. I like to really boost the treble a bit, but keeping in mind, of course, there's a bright switch here. You may not want to go too crazy. So just pull everything. Pull the mids back a little bit, maybe kick in a little more bass, a little more treble. Here's without the bright. So it just adds a little bit more sparkle on top. And then you've got your bias. And I love this knob because if I turn it pretty much all the way down, sounds like an old beat up amp at that point, you know? Because it's not driving the tubes properly. So you bring that bias up and then you get just an amazing sound out of that. So much fun to work with. And then what you can do is you can go to the IR section down here at the bottom. And let's go ahead and select something different. Something that you just wouldn't expect. We'll just go to the Vox. So we'll go to a Vox impulse response. Here's what we had before. Isn't that cool? So much fun. At this point now, what I want to do is I want to save it. So there's one of 2 ways you can do it. One way is you can use the foot switch here, and you can just simply press and hold, and that'll save it as a preset. You can also do it right here from the editor, and you can just press the save button there if you want to as well. Now, let's talk about scenes. And then I'm going to switch over to B so you can hear what the distortion channel sounds like. When you're working on scenes are, as I mentioned before, a snapshot within a preset. So 3 presets within a preset. And what I mean by that is that so let's just say I don't want the send and return used at all in the first scene. I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off, and I'm going to resave it. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to move to scene 2. And in scene 2, I want to make sure that the noise reduction is turned on. I want the reverb to be turned on. So we get something that sounds like this. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and save just because I like to save my work. Although it does remember it for you before you do that. So anyway, I'm going to go then to scene 3. And in scene 3, everything's turned on. So we've got the effects turned on, we've got the send and return turned on, and the reverb, of course. And so we get this. Let's see. So it sounds really nice. And it's all saved. So at this point now, we've got scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. So how would you use this? Well, the easiest way to say that is if you were working on a song, you're playing a song live, and you want to have the song be split up into 3 different sounds per preset. So, you know, your intro, your verse, and your chorus, or your intro, your verse, your chorus, and then you could switch over to the B channel if you wanted to for a real nice loud solo. You could do that too. That's the beauty of working with scenes. So let me turn off the mic here, and just so you can hear it without the mic getting in the way. All right, so how cool is that, right? What do you guys think? I'm not seeing any comments, so I'm just gonna keep asking for comments. Give me some feedback, y'all. Talk about it. Let me know. What do you think so far? It's pretty cool, right? I mean, this is like a really awesome pedal. So let's go ahead and move over to the second channel here. So I'll just use the foot switch here, the left foot switch. All right, so that needs a little bit of work with the master there. I'm gonna go ahead and move to my favorite though. My favorite by far. Okay, so not my best playing, but still. But if this is where you wanted to be for your dirty tones, then you've come to the right place. So right here we've got our Friedman. We've also got a Marshall. So if you want to play some of that old AC/DC. Well, technically that's new AC/DC, but still, you get the point. It's so easy to use. And from here we can do all the same things we talked about before. So if you wanted to bring in, like, say, a compressor or a booster, no problem. We'll bring that in. All right. So that's what you got with the Brown sound here on the other side of things. So if we want to go to, like, say, the send and return and make all those adjustments, we could do it from another scene, or we could do it on the same scene if you want to. You want to go to reverb here. So all sorts of things can be done here. Now, of course, I didn't really work with the bias or anything yet, or the presence or treble or anything I would normally do in these kinds of situations. So anyway, the if it's not your best playing, then can it sound only better? Of course. My wife, ladies and gentlemen, she's always keeping me on my toes. Anyway, so here we go. The frequency response. Oh, cool. Okay, great. Well, Ike, don't worry. You'll be able to watch all of this later. You'll be able to watch everything on the replay, so don't worry about that at all. Okay. Anyway, let's continue on here. So what's next on our list of tricks here? Let's talk about the editor a little bit more. So I'm actually going to kill this part of the feed here, so we can just bring the editor up a little more closely, or maybe I just wanted to get closer to you on the screen. Who knows? But let's take a look quickly at that. I want to just take a quick look-see at the some of the more dire pedals, or the more dire effects here, amps, I should say. So I'll kill the mic here. So I haven't done anything yet as far as like the EQing goes here. So what I would do is probably pull those mids all the way back, take the treb up, take the presence up, probably take that bias up even more, and of course I take that gain and just really. So now we got something that sounds really nice and chunky. So kill the mic again. So I'm not much of a thrash player. In fact, I'm really not a thrash player at all, at least not since I was 16 or so. But if any of you guys know one of our demo guys, Urson, he is like speed metal. He's like a speed metal freak. That guy is just on fire with his playing skills. But anyway, let's keep going through it. All right, so that's essentially how it all works as far as the pedal goes. Now let's talk about some of the power tips here, because I did see a couple of questions about this, and I'm going to answer everything here. So let me kill the guitar there. Okay, so if I go to the upper right corner, here's a couple things you may not know about it. One of the other really awesome things about the Amp Academy is that it has a loop. It has a phrase looper built in along with the drum machine. So it's not just for jamming without any sort of purpose or anything. If you want to like get a riff down and just kind of play with it a little bit, you can do that. And it works independently of the Amp Academy. So you can switch between the channels, you can switch between the scenes, it doesn't matter. So if I just go to say okay, so I'm just in scene 1 of channel A. Okay, scene 1 of channel A. From here, what I can do is I could just record a basic idea. It's going to wait to record and just do something really simple. I didn't quite get the loop right there, so try it again. Here we go. Okay, so it's not going to come out quite as well as I'd like it to, but I can just use the drum machine. It's going to detect the tempo. Now, it's not an exact science, of course. So if you play sloppy like I just did, it's not going to quite mix. But what you can do instead is you've got your volume here, so you can turn the volume up of the drums. You can turn the 3-band EQ up here and get it a little more rocking here. And we can even choose a different type of rhythm here. I'll go to pop. And what I can do is I can just start playing. Okay, so now I'm just playing. And I can get it record ready, and then I can record something that at least sounds a lot more in tempo. Okay? 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's a little bit better, right? So at that point now, you can just go back out of the looper, and you could then, well, what you could also do too, and you probably want to do this, is turn the volume up of the loop, then go back out to the upper side here, and then like you could go to a different scene if you wanted to. So basically it's just jam away until your heart's content, but it's a really handy feature because when you're using the, when you're jamming along, you know, we always just get so lost in just playing freestyle and all that, but having something you can actually jam to a little bit and just kind of get into it, I think is really helpful indeed. So having that feature there is really great. And by the way, there really aren't any pedals that at least I'm aware of that actually do that. And then to the right, and this is going to answer another person's question from earlier. This is where you've got all of your settings. So the settings dialog, this is where you can set up your input and your output for MIDI, because yes, it does send and receive MIDI. You can also use this as a USB-C audio interface. So for those of you out there who are using it, who thinking, well, do I need to get a separate audio interface in order to do this? No, you don't. It can actually all be done from here. And there's actually 3 different setups, 3 of them, and I'm going to show you what they are in a sec. But you've got some other power features here, like the ability to reamp. So not only can you record a track, but you can also reamp. Now I've done reamp videos for my channel that focus on the MG300 and the MG30. The Amp Academy is by no means a slacker when it comes to that. It does an amazing job with reamping. So you can do that as well. Now, to the bottom of that, you've got a couple of other features, and I want to get back to that when we get to power tips here in a second. But let's talk about how you could use this as far as the setup goes. So let me go ahead and bring up this other screen here real quick. All right, here we are. So here's a couple of setups that you can use for the Amp Academy. And this is where the impulse response output switch comes in handy. So on a live setup, in this setup, what you can do is you can go simultaneously from the Amp Academy to your amplifier, to an actual hardware amplifier in the effects return. And you can also use the DI output on the side of the Amp Academy to go off to a front of house mixer, while simultaneously also using the send and return to an external pedal. And of course, you can plug a guitar right into another pedal that goes right into the Amp Academy, which actually I have here, where I'm actually using the analog chorus, the reissue analog chorus, that's going into the input of the Amp Academy. So that's one thing you can do. So it sends, when you set up the IR output into the off position, what'll happen is it sends the IR out to the mixer by way of the DI output, but it doesn't send it out through the output, so that the actual output that goes off to your amp. So you've got that as one setup that you can do. And it's kind of in a redundancy, if you will. But then you've got another setup, which is setup 2 in the studio, where you can use the DI output, or you can use the standard output if you'd like to go to the input of your audio interface if you're using an external audio interface. If you've chosen not to use the Amp Academy as its own audio interface, you can do it that way too. So that's another way to go. And then there is a third way to go, which is you can use it simply as an audio interface on its own. And you can turn off the impulse response when you're recording it in, because you can use the plugins inside of your DAW, because every DAW has some sort of impulse response plugin built in, so you've got that going for you as well. That's what I'm talking about. Some really interesting opportunities here to play with the editor here. Let's bring that back up the right way. There I am. Hello. So that's a couple of things you can do as far as the setups go. Now let's talk about a couple of power features here. And I'm just going to delve on them. I'm just going to talk about it just a touch here. But you've got your scene setup. Now, what is scene setup? Okay, so scene setup is used to disengage scene 3 because there is no toggling back and forth between the scenes. Once you're in scene 1, if you're going to go to scene 3, you have to go through scene 2 first. And if you're on scene 2 and you say, well, I'd like to go back to scene 1, you can't do that under the way it normally is. However, if you disengage scene 3, what happens is instead of going from scene 1 to scene 2 to scene 3, you just press the scene button, it goes right back to scene 1 again. So scene 1, scene 2, scene 1, scene 2. And if you re-engage that again, I'll go ahead and turn that back on. What happens is, okay, scene 2, then it goes to scene 3, then it jumps back to scene 1 again. So again, another really nice time saver there for you, okay? The other thing too is you've got parameter follow. Now, this is an interesting idea because in parameter follow, if you select like say an effect, let's say you select the spring reverb, and you go and just set it to whatever you like to. Let's say for some reason, some bizarre reason, I just want the spring reverb to be set to 0 as far as the level goes. If you go to a different amp and you go to the spring reverb again, whoop, let's try that again. There it is. It remembered it. So you remembered where I set the level. So it remembers your behaviors. So when you try to bring up that same effect on, say, a different amp, it'll still remember it. So you can get to the sound, the tonality that you want. So let me demonstrate that again. Okay, so let's say that I like to keep my, I want to keep my spring reverb. Let's see here. Oh, I remembered that. Okay, let me turn that off really quick. All right, turn that off. And now let's go back in there and let's make that adjustment again. So bring the spring reverb. Here we go. This is where I want it to be. Let me also select para follow again. So again, I'll make that adjustment. Here it is, it's turned on. Now I'm gonna go over to another amp. I'm gonna go to reverb, and there's the adjustments that I made. So it followed my parameter adjustments onto the next effect. That's what you can do with this. It's really cool. I think it's just a real standout feature. So that is, in effect, the Amp Academy. That's pretty much everything there is there. Let me get rid of my headphones here so I can actually start looking through the questions. But these, this isn't as in depth as the MG30 or the 300 or anything like that. So these are actually, when we're talking about one, okay, I saw that, Rick. That's very funny. So in any case, the pedals like this don't honestly require that much of an explanation. But the thing is about the products from NUX that when we make these products, we're always putting in all sorts of power features in here. Like for example, let me see if I can get the top-down camera to behave here. Let me kill that. All right, here we are. So what we could do is we can unplug the. Okay, it's not showing it there because I'm having some trouble with the top-down camera. So we'll have to probably come back to that another time. But we will. What you can do is you can actually. There we go. Okay, back to that window. There we go. Okay. What you can do is you can actually unplug the Amp Academy while you're and plug it back in while you're holding down the AB foot switch, and that will turn off the impulse response going outside of the DI output. So you've got that going for you. And there's other things too, and I have to actually get my phone out here so that I can read this for you, because I want to tell you about something very exciting, because you're going to have some new stuff coming very, very shortly here. Okay, here we go. Hold on, guys. And I've been authorized to talk about this because we have new features coming. That's the other thing about NUX. We never stop. We never stop innovating. We never stop developing. A lot of our products have so many cool hidden features that we pop into every new firmware update. That's just the magic of working with the brand. So there's a new firmware that is on the way in the next 2 weeks, which is going to have improvements to the dual rectifier and the Soldano amp. So the sound is going to get even better than it did before. And then check this out. There's going to be a new feature called Pro Scene. And what Pro Scene is it's that a regular scene can disengage the block. A Pro Scene can save different parameters and even different models under the same block. So for example, your effects block could have, scene 1 could have the Cantana, and then scene 2 could have the red drive. And that alone is something I know everybody has been asking for that on anything that has a scene built into it. Whether we're talking about our products, or we're talking about Headrush, or we're talking about Ampero, everybody always wants to know, if you go from scene to scene, can you set a different effect per scene? That's cool, right? It's awesome. It's really awesome. And this is something that's coming even further down the road. We are developing a mobile app for this pedal. We're developing a mobile app for the pedal. Isn't that great? So you don't have to necessarily only use a Mac or a PC. You'll be able to use your iPhone or your Android phone, and you'll be able to dial in and edit it that way. Now, I have to assume there's probably going to be a hard connection. I haven't seen anything actually work yet, so I don't know. But there is going to be live tweaking. So we're doing that so that you don't have to worry about when you're outside on the road. Oh shit, I forgot my, I just dropped a 4-letter word there. Sorry, I forgot to edit my preset exactly the way I wanted. Oh no, well now you can do it with the, you'll be able to do it on the go with the mobile app. So there you have it. That's why you want to, stick around to the end of these things, because I tend to let people know towards the end what's going on here. But that essentially takes us to the end of the clinic here. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for questions here. So let's see what the chat overlay looks like. I don't think any new comments will display here, but I don't think it's really honestly that necessary. We can just go ahead and, I mean, this is really weird. For some reason, Restream doesn't refresh that for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. So let's take one more look at that again. Yep, it doesn't let me do that. All right, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up the list here. I'm going to go to the top of the comments, and I'm going to start going down. So whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on the NUX Facebook, the Pedal Guy Facebook, or if you're on either of our YouTube channels, if you put a question anywhere there, I'm going to answer it for you. So I'm going to see it, so I'll be able to answer it for you. So here we go. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, right. Okay. Okay, so Gout, here was your question. So for a complete noob, can you explain what the Amp Academy is? Well, it's an amp as a pedal. So I hope I answered that question enough during the whole clinic there, but that's essentially how it works. And it is available right now if you're in the United States. It's available around the world too. It's been a little hard to get a hold of because we sold so many of them in the first 60 days. In fact, we've only got maybe a couple left in stock right now. So if you visit your local favorite retailer, you should be able to get one without trouble. Let's see. Okay, Quicksilver. Okay, Quicksilver. My buddy Quicksilver. Why no AC30? Well, I don't have an answer for you on that, Quicksilver. I'm sorry that I don't. But again, that was well, it wasn't my decision. Doesn't mean that at some point they might, look at some way to interchange the amps. But for right now, no, that isn't built in. But it's a good question. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And of course, Quicksilver also said, thanks for the tutorial and live stream. You're very welcome. I'm very happy to do this. I haven't been able to do any videos for the last 2 months because I've just been so bloody busy here at NUX. There's so much stuff to talk about these days over at NUX. We have, trust me when I tell you, that the Amp Academy and the Tape Echo are not our final destinations in the land of newness for this year. not by a long shot. We have, of course, the microphone here, the B10 Vlog, that just landed. It's amazing. This is 119 bucks here in the United States, and it works flawlessly. We have, it's not a great secret at this point, we have a new MG coming, the MG 400, which is a big brother to the MG 300, but it is absolutely not a replacement for the the MG 30. I know a lot of people ask, well, is there an MG 40? I can't tell you because I don't know, honestly, for sure. But there are a lot of, there's always time. There's always a chance, right? Okay, let me take a look here. Okay, Andrew, well, Andrew wrote about, NAMM. Well, NAMM's kind of a double-edged sword right now because, it's not that I don't want to do NAMM. I've been doing NAMM for almost 30 years now. Back when I had a lot more hair and it mostly was one color. I did it since the 90s, since before they moved to LA when they were remodeling the Anaheim Convention Center. They moved us up to the LA Convention Center, and that was a nightmare to be sure, because you had to walk all the way from the West Hall to the South Hall, and that was like a mile just to do that. So it was crazy. A lot of people got exercise during that show, but I go way, way back with the NAMM show. And at this point right now, I think there's still so many questions about the general health of everybody here, and the fact that people are flying in from all over the country to be in this confined space. That's one thing. But the other thing too is that we've been dealing with these supply chain problems since last year. Now, NUX honestly has not had that much of a problem. Yes, we had, now I know somebody's gonna say, oh, that's BS because the MG30s. Yes, there was some shortages on the MG30. There were some shortages on the Mighty Plug. But when you think about the large spectrum of everything that we make, we really never had any huge problems with inventory. So throughout the entire time, we were in pretty good shape. I can't say that for the bigger companies. And that's why Fender isn't there. That's why Roland's not there. They just got their stuff, in some cases, like in the last 60 days. And they've been very reluctant about coming and committing to these shows. And I actually went and I asked everybody, hey, do you want to do the NAMM show? Are you going to do the NAMM show? And a lot of the companies, very large companies, I won't mention who they are, said, no, we're not going to do the show. It's not worth it for us because it's a huge investment of time and money. And it's also, we have nothing to ship. So it's almost like, we all want to do it. Believe me, we all do want to do the show, but there's just no way to do it if we have nothing to show. Now, the other problem, of course, for us is, we're a Chinese-based organization. So bringing everybody from the Chinese office here, that's just a nightmare waiting to happen. Pretty hard to do because of the quarantine times. So we looked at all of that and just said to ourselves, this just isn't worth it. However, we just signed with the music people, and they are going to be our, like a little sub-distributor for us for the really small dealers of the United States. And they have a booth at the NAMM show, and the great Urson is there, and he is demoing products all weekend long. So if you are in Anaheim and you are going to the show, stop by the Music People booth and we will be there, and you can check out the Amp Academy, the Tape Echo, the Ace of Tone, which I think is one of our hidden gems, all of those things. So in any case, those are my thoughts on NAMM. Not that you were asking for it, but there you have it. Andrew, thank you very much for coming to the show today. Okay, so Quicksilver asked that. Okay, so Bruce Brooks asked a very good question here. How do the amp models in the Academy compare to those in the MG30? They're basically about the same. There's very little difference because that I'm aware of. Now, Monk, our one of our developers, our vice president of sales and marketing in China, there he knows everything about everything when it comes to the products. And he might have a different opinion about that, but from what I can tell, no, there's really no difference as far as the amps go. But of course, with the MG30, you get more amps than you do here. And you get the acoustic impulse responses and all that stuff too. This is, and of course, though, do keep in mind, that's a $299 product, and this is $199. And this is meant for a different purpose. So Bruce, I hope you understand that point, is that this is for a different purpose. The purpose here is that I don't want to schlep my amp around. I still want to use my favorite effects and pedals, but I don't want to have an amp to carry around. This way, with the Amp Academy, I don't have to do that. Okay, so thank you very much for the question. Let's see, and Ike, let's see, I know, okay, let's see, we had a question here from John Philippe. How you doing there? Can you switch presets via MIDI? That's a really good question. I honestly don't know right off the top of my head. So let me just bring the editor back up here. Let's take a look at that real quick, yeah? All right, there we go. Editor. Here we go. Here's everything that you can do. So let's see, I'm just going to go here. Scene switch, drum enabled drum type. It does not look like it. No, I don't think you can. Unless I'm missing something here. Nope. I see scene switching, but I don't see preset switching. So, sorry. I guess the answer would be no in this case. But hope that answers your question there. All right. Let's turn that off. Get back over here. Now, Ike, you missed the first 22 minutes. No problem with that, Ike. Just go back and watch the replay when this is over in a few minutes, and you can watch it to your heart's content. So no problem, we got you there. Okay, Keith. All right, Keith has a question here. Keith Robinson. What's it like on lead tones, like the intro to Gary B.B. Coleman, The Sky is Crying, Road to Hell? It's great for lead tones. It's great for lead tones because with the scenes, you can generate those lead tones so easily on the same amp, or you can just switch over to the other channel and go to a dirty amp if you want to. So clean or dirty, you can make the lead tones happen. And with that scene, with that new power editing feature I just mentioned that's coming in the next version of the firmware, you'll actually be able to switch to a different scene and have like a completely different boost. So that'll really dial in the lead tones for you. So hope that answers your question there. Okay, Ike has a follow-up question here. On the diskette icon, there are two other ones. The bottom one looks like a download. Yeah, the one is an export and the other one's an export and the other one's an import. So that's what those do. Okay, so Quicksilver's got another comment here. The Solid Studio does that, Ike, but my question is regarding redundancy. Does this make the Solid Studio a bit redundant? Well, yeah, maybe. You know, with I don't honestly think so because the Solid Studio is more of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to the power amp and impulse responses. Now you can have much more than 16 slots of impulse responses with the Solid Studio. You can actually have an impulse response pretty much for every turn and then every switch. So you can load that thing up. In fact, I did that for somebody last year. It took a few hours to do, where I was actually able to give him, I don't know, like, I don't even want to remember I don't even honestly remember the number of impulse responses I gave him, but I gave him so many that it was gnarly. It was absolutely crazy. So I couldn't believe that myself. Anyway, okay, let's go ahead and hide that one. But he already bought 2 Solid Studios. Well, Quicksilver definitely is definitely drank the Kool-Aid. Thank you. Okay, Rick, getting a laugh out of this, having done years of corporate training and having nobody ask questions. But don't worry, I think you're covering this well. That's why I don't have any. Well, good. Then that means I'm doing my job, Rick. Thanks so much. I'm glad. But he did. Oh, that's so funny because you did have a question right after that. No loop function, right? Well, no, there is a loop function. If you're talking about the phrase looper, yes, there is a loop function. There is the phrase looper, which is right here. You've got the drum machine, then you've got the phrase looper. And this is all based on JTC technology, by the way. So it detects the tempo, and then it will play the drum rhythm according to that. So keep that in mind. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. I'm going a million miles a second here. Let me go back to there. What do you think about Restream, guys? This is what I'm using for my live stream. I love the way this looks. So I'm using the new camera. I'm using the new streaming, when it's got some new functionality on the way that's going to enable me to do picture-in-picture without any lag time. The way I had to do this is so half-assed you don't even want to know. But it sure beats doing it all through OBS and then trying to transmit it into here. So Rick also says, like the Center through 35. What a coincidence, so do I. And then he also wanted to know what presence does. Well, presence simply affects the treble of the amp. It's more sparkle more than anything. So you don't want to have it dialed in too high because it can be very prickly sounding. Kind of the same thing with the bias. The bias drives the tubes, so the saturation. And so you can make it sound like an old broken amp if you want to, or you can make it sound like a symphony, no matter how you work it there. So I hope that helps. Let's see. Chris has a question. Chris, welcome to the stream. Thank you for being here. Standall Amp Sim. I don't know Standall. Sorry. Pignose. No, those aren't in here. But that does bring up a good point, though. And I do have a pretty strong opinion of amp modeling myself, personally, because I've been doing this since the 90s. And believe me, the amp modeling back in the 90s, whew, so bad. So awful, so awful. I hope that we're going to start seeing, and if it's not us, that's fine. If it's somebody else too, that's good too. But I hope we're going to start seeing some more eclectic selections. Like I'd really like to see a Rockman myself. What do you guys think? Use the comments. Let me know what you think. I mean, if there's such a demand for it, that it would be really great if we could have that. And I definitely know the merits of a Pignose. Frank Zappa used one for years. And never judge an amp by the size, but what you can get out of it. And he got some pretty magical tones out of it for its day. And Rockman is the one that I'm always interested in. And the only guys that made a Rockman amp sim that I'm aware of is IK Multimedia with the Amplitube. So that's the only one I know of. And there's so many records done with the Rockman amp back in the 80s. I mean, Def Leppard wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for the Rockman. I mean, they use the Gallion-Kruger. That's not necessarily true. They use the Gallion-Kruger too. But still, if you listen to the album Hysteria, that's like wall-to-wall. It's like wall-to-wall Rockman. So it's a great sounding amp, I think. And I'd love to see that in the Amp Academy. And you could probably get there by using the Marshall and then like EQing and really getting surgical with it. You might be able to get there. Let's see, here's an interesting question. Okay, Lee asks, is there any way to place one of the channel A amp models on the B channel? No, unfortunately not. There isn't. It's not meant to do that. That doesn't mean that it won't be possible somewhere down the road, but for right now, no, it isn't. But thank you for your question. Okay, so here's a question from Christopher Butler. Christopher, welcome to the stream. Let's see, is the output from the USB interface in stereo? No, it is not. It is a mono output. And the other ones like the Iridium and the IR200, those have stereo outputs that I'm aware of, but at the same time, it serves a bit of a different purpose. So no, in this case, it doesn't. But thank you very much for the question. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay, so Chris Ogburn, sorry, just walked in. Well, Chris, don't worry, you'll be able to watch the entire live stream back. Okay, not seeing any of the old chat from earlier. Yeah, that's right. I just noticed that myself because I'm seeing here. I look on the side and there's the new. It'll only display the new comments. I'm still getting to know. Restream a little bit. So if a new comment were to come in like right now, here. It should show up. See, there it is right there. So you can see it. It's just, unfortunately, no, it doesn't do that. But in any case, there you have it. Okay. Right. Let's go up. Let's find yours. Okay, there we go. All right. So here's some. Let me go ahead and turn that in. Yeah. Chris, represent, man. Rockman all the way, buddy. Rockman all the way. I have an old Rockman headphone amp in there. It doesn't work at this point, I think. I killed it effectively in the last move from Santa Monica here. But we used to live up there. And but I remember, Lord, when the, let's see, the 90s, you could, like when the Walk On album came out, Everybody got refascinated a little bit with the Rockman sound. And you could get a Rockman amp you could get one of those headphone amps for like under $100 on the recycler. If you remember what the recycler is, that was the used papers that we used because we didn't have the interweb yet. That wasn't there yet. You had to use dial-up modems, which was like, so there you go. I do love using microphones. Oh boy. Let's see. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry, Ryan. I didn't answer your question. I'm so sorry. Pardon me. Ryan Paul wrote, any dates when Amp Academy will be in the Philippines? It should be there anytime now. It should be there now. I don't know who our distributor is in the Philippines, actually, but if you send a message to any of our social media channels, you should be able to get an answer as far as where you can pick it up. But that's the news there. But it should be out. It should be available worldwide at this point. Let's see. Chris also wrote some commentary here about NAMM. Are those factors making NAMM a less important traditional release spectacular? Well, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. Or whatever cliche term you want to use to describe a double-edged sword or something like that. Because you know, I never really, in the beginning when NAMM was around, yeah, NAMM was like the place to be if you wanted to see what was going to be new that year. But we also have another way of describing NAMM. Not available, maybe May. So, you know, with NAMM, we would say not available, maybe May. It was like, it became, as years went on, it became more and more vaporware more than anything for some of the products out there. And even for us, I mean, 2020, when I was at the NAMM show as the pedal guy and I was walking around and hanging out with the guys at the NAMM show, this is when I first saw the Mighty Plug and the Mighty Air, and I saw the MG300 and I was like, wow, guys, this is going to be hot stuff. You guys are definitely the kings at this point. Then COVID happened and it changed everything. But these days, I can release a product tomorrow if I want to, and I can put enough zip behind it that enough people will watch it. I'll throw enough money at it with boosting posts and all that fun stuff, and I'll get plenty of eyes on it. What will never be different than from NAMM. I mean, NAMM will always have a very unique opportunity though as well to have people come and touch the products and feel the products and see, how does it work? How is this going to work for me and my rig? How do I sell the dream to those people coming into the show? That is what NAMM really is truly special for. Now, of course, from the dealer perspective too, the dealers are there to come in and do business. And here's the sad truth about it is that you don't need to do that. You really, if you're a dealer, you don't need to do that. You can do all of your business on the phone later. It's kind of a complete waste of time in my opinion. But in any case, that's, you know, again, that's more commentary more than anything. But thank you for the question there, Chris. Okay, so we're just going down the list here, so don't worry, we got plenty of time. I just bought so Luke writes, I just bought the Amp Academy to have a setup for my new electric, but what are your thoughts on using it with an acoustic, utilizing an acoustic IR? Well, I haven't done that, so I couldn't tell you for sure. Maybe my dog is trying to say it won't work. I'm not sure, honestly. Because here's the thing, you can't turn off the amp. You can't turn off the amp section. And unless we put a Stageman or the 1073 from the Optima Air into the Amp Academy itself and then utilize an impulse response, I don't think it'll exactly work that way. So if you were going to do that, Luke, and you may not want to hear this, and you might want to consider just getting the Optima Air. I think for the acoustic player, it really is like, if you're going to play electric with the Amp Academy. If you're going to play acoustic, use the Optima Air, and you really do get the best of both worlds at that point. Frankly, the 1073 preamp is worth the price of admission alone, the way that thing sounds. It's utterly amazing. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you very much, Luke. I appreciate your time. Let's see. Chris wrote more here. Let's see what we got here. NUX, better worded question. Are any of the internal effects in stereo? No, they're not. No. It's not. It's not stereo. It is mono, 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 mono. So no, it is not. It is not stereo. It's mono. Okay, Chris Quicksilver. What? So there's no real way to run 2 amps at once. Sure, buy 2 amp academies. That'll be the price of a single Strymon Iridium. I'm not even kidding about that. It's crazy, man. Some of those other pedals are like uber expensive. I could go East Coast and I could go Boston and go, they're wicked expensive, man. But no, you can buy 2 amp academies for the same price of one. So you could have a left and right if you wanted to that way. Or of course you can just use like an MG30 if you want to. So keep in mind, there's always solutions. You just got to know what is available and what's not. And in some cases with say if you wanted to go with 2 amp academies, you could layer a sound and create a really awesome sound out of that if you wanted to. So there you have it. Okay, let's see. Okay, Ryan. Oh, okay, same question as before. Any dates when we'll be in the Philippines? Yeah, it should be there now. It should be there now. It's like, okay, Angel wrote, hi to Puerto Rico. Hi, Puerto Rico. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate your time. As always. And I know everybody has busy time of the day. I've just found that this is typically the best time for me to be online for live streams. Okay, so latency. Latency is pretty much non-existent. And when you're using it as an audio interface, if you're using it USB-C to USB-C, which is what I recommend doing, it's like non-existent. And it's very solid. Scene switching the video is great. In the video is great. Yeah, I agree, Ike. It is a lot of fun to do this. It's so much easier than OBS. I liked OBS. In fact, I still use it for recording my videos, but which I hope to get back to doing some of those soon. It really is just a question of time because I'm so busy all the time with NUX stuff with the business. But yeah, OBS is great, and considering the fact it's free, how can you complain about that? But this Restream has just been such a treat to use. So I'm glad it's looking good. Okay, latency. Latency is, okay, so Chris wants an explanation of what latency is. Okay, well, Chris, here's the easiest explanation. It is the delay between playing a note and hearing it come back through whatever processor you're using. So if you're using a computer, it is the amount of time between playing the note, having it processed through the computer, and then hearing it out through the output. So ideally, latency under 5 milliseconds is pretty much non-detectable. Anything above that, you can absolutely hear it. And when I first started doing this stuff, cast your mind back, get in the Wayback Machine, cast your mind back to the year 1997, when it was Cubase Audio. If anybody remembers that song, that demo song, ooh, God, the earworm. But I was working for Steinberg all the way back then in the dark ages, and we had latency up to 750 milliseconds. So we had to use all kinds of interesting workarounds to get around that problem, especially with like the Lexicon Studio and the Event Electronics Darla, Gina, and Layla. So there you go, yo. So I hope that answers what latency is. Okay, Christopher Butler. The amp modeling was great in the Roland GP 100 back in the 90s. Yeah, that's not bad. And the Axe Effect, let's see, Robert Fripp had 2 of them in his live rig until the Axe Effect 3 came out. Yeah, look, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about all of this. You know, you've got all this technology now. You've got all of this versatility. You can do whatever you want. You know, not that I ever look down on younger people when it comes to this stuff. Not at all. They're just getting into all of this and seeing what's out there. But you know, when we were starting this in the 80s and 90s and all that, we had none of this stuff. We had none of it. I mean, we had the old kidney bean, you know, pod. And Marcus is a genius. Marcus Ryle's an absolute genius for coming up with that. But we didn't have any of that stuff back then. So yeah, I think everybody just has to find their own way of getting the tones. Like for example, I love Strats. I know I haven't been playing one lately. That's because my Strat's damaged and I need to get it fixed. But I love playing Strats. They're my more preferential model of guitar to play more than anything. But now there's just like so many different variations on everything out there. It's nuts. But you know, when it comes to amp modeling, it's just gotten so good now. It's gotten so good. I used to really hate it. Like the first version of Guitar Rig was like, I didn't like that thing at all. It was terrible. But now it's amazing. And you know, look at Kemper, right? Kemper is like, that's the Rolls Royce of amp modeling up there in the very large price points. I remember when they called on me back in the day in an old job of mine, and nobody would take them seriously at all at that point. Because they didn't know how to speak to the American audience yet. And then a few years ago, I went to see Trevor Rabin play with John Anderson and Rick Wakeman. What a show that was. And Trevor's whole setup was just Kempers. He had like 4 or 5 Kempers up on stage, and he just got this huge sound out of it that just was like amazing. So yeah, you know, the beauty lies in the beholder. So, or as the other saying goes, different strokes for different blokes. Okay. So Schultz-Rockman, yes, please. Yes, please, indeed. Definitely don't want that fake one that's been out for the last several years. Okay, Quicksilver wrote a new comment here. Oh, I'm deep into the NUX stuff. I have most of the Verdugo pedals. I'm just missing the wet effects like chorus, flanger, tremolo, etc. Well, you know, the Atlantic is tried and true. One of our best as far as all of the wet effects go for delay and reverb. I agree. We need to come up with some new. Wet effects. And are you listening? Are you listening? There might be something coming later this year if you are paying attention to our site, paying attention to our social channels. We might have something to talk about. I don't know if it's Verdugo yet, but hinty, hint, hint, hint. You want to stay tuned to our channels and stay tuned to everything so that you know for sure what's coming. But we may surprise you yet. Okay, let's see. Chris wrote again. He said, "I just realized you're getting chats from multiple channels, right?" Yes, I'm getting chats from. Where am I getting chats from? From my YouTube channel, the NUX YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and the NUX Facebook page. Now, the whole thing about Restream, and this is really, really exciting stuff. My gears started turning as soon as I saw this feature, is the ability to pair channels and pair Facebook pages and all that. I can literally, if I push the button and I work with certain companies, I can actually get us to, I can actually have access to their Facebook and YouTube channels from here, and I can broadcast to their entire audience. So think about a channel that's got hundreds of thousands of people following. Like, let's say Pete Thorne, for example, allowed us to pair up. We could broadcast to literally hundreds of thousands of people in one hit. That's the amazing thing about the Restream. So it's great because it consolidates everything. It's fantastic. Okay, right. I'm on the NUX channel. I'm only seeing the comments coming from 19 people showing walking here, but that's true. So it is. Yeah. Well, the thing is it'll be. Well, it is what it is right now. I'm still learning Restream, so forgive me. Okay, here's a good. Oh, come on. When's the next Boston album coming out? I don't know. When does the sun come up next? You know, Tom's a tough cookie. I don't know him personally. Wouldn't mind getting to meet him one day. But he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore. So, and boy, I couldn't tell you. But honestly, everything past Walk On has just been pretty forgetful for me. Forgettable. I don't really care for most of the stuff. Really didn't care for corporate America. And it's nothing personal. It's just it wasn't my cup of tea. So let's see. Just another piece of gear I got for $520 at flea market or garage sale. I wish I never sold. All right, there you go. Oh, Andrew. Okay, Andrew's got a question here. Are you still selling head rush products? Andrew, I am no longer dealing. I'm no longer a dealer at this point. I've actually shut the business down. And I'm just selling down what I've actually got in stock at this point, which is not Headrush. But I remain good friends with the Headrush crew, really good people, and I wish them the best, of course. But I work now for NUX full time, so this is I've rethemed the channel. If you've seen the YouTube channel lately, to be more of a NUX sister channel, and that's kind of how I've themed it. Let's see, debut of soon to no be longer supported legacy products. Yeah. Okay, I'll let that one. I'll let that one go, man. No, it's true. It's true. There is some cynicism there, but yes, that's kind of what you can see it as. Yeah. Yeah, and booths are expensive at NAMM. That's why we're not doing it. It's a huge amount of money for us to not only get the booth but fly everybody in from China. Oy, forget about it. Okay, so let's see, Quicksilver. Totally. I'm planning on buying 2 Amp Academy pedals. I just wish it had an AC30. Well, you know, if you work closely with the Fender and you bring in a Vox impulse response, you can get pretty close to the sound. You can get pretty close to it. You may not agree with that assessment, but I think you can get pretty close to it. Okay, let's see. We got about 5 more minutes, and we'll go to a lot of questions here still. I'm going to try to lightning round these things. I watch Jim Cramer on MSNBC. Anybody watch him? Or CNBC. Sorry, CNBC, not MSNBC. CNBC. I follow the stock market a lot these days. Well, I'm crying right now. Today was murder. Okay, hi from Guatemala. Hello. Can you turn off the amp on the MG30 for it to be used with acoustic guitar? Yes, you can do that. And there's also an acoustic amp in there on the MG30, so you can have it either way. Thank you for the question. Hence, I use 2 solid studio pedals to go with the Tech 21. There you go. Okay. Let's see what we're going on here. And all that was a lower sample rate bit depth. Yes, right. The old stuff, yes, it was at a lower bit depth rate. Okay, here's a very long one from Christopher. Christopher, yeah, the Line 6 stuff sounded really harsh compared to the Roland stuff in the 90s. Yeah, some of it, you know. Hell, we could say the same thing about the samplers. You know, I had an gosh, what was the... I mean, the Akai's were the S1000, 2000, 3000. What was the name of the sampler for Roland? Oh my gosh, I can't honestly remember. I'm gonna drive myself crazy trying to remember it. But it's back when you had to get a separate TV as a monitor for it, and oh my man, what a pain. Oh boy. Okay, so Chris uses the Variax. Yep, I have a couple of Variaxes myself, actually, the first models. Let's see. I've drunk the Kool-Aid too. NUX OTC, Morningstar, the XTC OD, Morningstar, Duotime, and the Monterey Vibe. Yeah, it is really cool stuff, and this is why I'm here, man. I only work for people that have products that I like, and if I don't like the products, I'm not going to bother. I've too long in my career to just sit around and just work for anybody. I want to make sure that I'm making a difference, and I've been using NUX. I've invested in NUX long before I ever had anything to do with them in an employment capacity. So yes, indeed. Okay. Well, Quicksilver and Christopher and Chris are all of my guys here, so I can see I can taking the chorus section out of the Cerberus and making that into a Verdugo pedal. Take my money, please. Quicksilver. Trust me. There's something coming for you, because you just mentioned something that I can't say now, but I can say that there will be some interesting stuff on the horizons. Trust me. Let's see. Is there a resync problem at your house? Not really. It's just that, you know, what I'm doing right now is I'm actually using two streams to get the dual camera setup. to make that work. So you see how there's a delay? That's because the camera that's pointing down at the pedal is actually going through a different tab. It was the only way I got to make it work. And it was working before, but it was being kind of hairy before. Thanks for the congrats on the full-time job. Thank you very much, Christopher. I appreciate that. Let's see. Okay, let's see. I want to take a look here. Your Variax died. I'm sorry. I hope you gave it a good funeral. Sorry about that. Keith Robinson has a question. Is NUX going to make a dedicated blues pedal in the future? Well, we already have one, really. We already have one. It's called the Ace of Tone. It's a Verdugo pedal. It's 119 here in the US, and it's amazing what you can do with it. The Ace of Tone combines the Tube Man and the Morningstar all into one pedal. So it is fantastic, and you can stack them. So if you want to get a good blues sound, accept no substitutes. That's a really good one. Another one you can do is the Drive Core. That's really nice, but it's a little dated. The other one too, of course, is the Horseman. The Horseman is an amazing overdrive and can be used as a boost and everything. It's fantastic. Of course, Morningstar by itself is a lot of fun. But we already actually make them. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, so let's see. My current chain. All right, I'll just read this last one here, and then we gotta hang it up for the day here. Let's see. My current chain goes from the tuner to Masamune, to the Fireman, to Ace of Tone, to Horseman, to Rivulet, to and the new Tape Echo. Ay ay ay! Wow, that's you should really post a picture of that on your Facebook page and share it with us, and we'll give you a like. Quicksilver, let us know about that one. All right. Anyway, okay, so there's one last one here from Christopher Butler. Okay, check out John Nathan Cody's channel for a great demo of the Amp Academy. He does not pull punches about anything, and he really liked it. That's good, okay? Even in comparison to the Iridium, which he used to use. That's wonderful. You know, that's really great. And I hope, you know, we won't win every time with all of these, but the fact of the matter is that there's so many solutions now that it's just literally impossible for people to go wrong with it. And I think it just takes dedication, it takes time, and you just have to want to learn the product and want to know how it's going to work for you. And some pedals will work better for others. You know, there are pedals I use that you might look at and go, why the heck does he use those? I mean, my first pedal actually is right back there on the wall. It's a little hard to see here, but the yellow pedal right there is a turbo overdrive from Boss. I still use that, and that was my very first pedal all the way back there in 1987. So then I see some Lounsbury pedals back there. I think the Trio's there. No, the Trio actually put it into storage right now because I had to save some room here. But in any case, I think at this point, guys, we're pretty much at the end of the live stream today because we've gone for an hour and a half at this point, and I'm pooped. It's a lot of work doing these things, man. So anyway, thank you so very much for joining the live stream. Just remember, you can always watch the playback anytime you want to on any of the channels you're watching it on. And be sure to stay tuned for future live streams because this will not be our last live stream. I'm going to be doing a lot of these going forward. And we'll have a lot of fun with it. So in any case, thank you so very much for attending. And if you have any further questions, just hit us up at NUX and we'll help you out in any way we can. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.